And as Ed just mentioned, the Supreme Court is getting ready to issue more opinions today. Several rulings on some controversial cases are expected. So for more on this, I want to bring in defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Scott Fredericksen. Scott, let us dig into it because we got two big cases that, may have an impact on the election. They have serious implications for former President Donald Trump. What's at stake with the rulings related to presidential immunity in January 6th?
Well, good morning, Anne-Marie. Yes, it's hard to remember any term that has had so many blockbuster decisions still pending at this point. And the first and most important is whether the former president will have immunity for his actions in connection with trying to overturn the 2020 election. The former president essentially argues that he should have complete immunity for anything he did. You recall his famous statement that he should be able to, or by his attorneys, that he should be able to go out and shoot someone and still, while president, still have immunity. Obviously, the prosecutor, independent counsel Smith, takes a different view, and the lower court issued a unanimous decision saying that there was no immunity for the actions alleged in this indictment. Now, what somewhat surprised people was how active the Supreme Court became in taking this case and in their arguments. It seems apparent that, although we don't know, that the Supreme Court's likely to probably come down to a decision that is neither no immunity or full immunity. Rather, it's going to be something in between. Now, that's important because it will determine whether or not the former president will actually stand trial before the election. It is certainly still possible, although increasingly unlikely, that a trial can still happen before the election. There's very short time. And if the Supreme Court makes a decision to send the case essentially back to the lower court to make further findings, that would mean more hearings, and that would likely mean no trial before the election. There's a lot of issues percolating here, a lot to unravel, but that's certainly the most important one pending.
Now, we know the Supreme Court is apolitical. There may be conservative justices and more liberal justices, but in terms of politics, that is not supposed to have an influence on the way they decide cases. But this term, we've had some things pop up. And I'm thinking specifically right now about Justice Alito and kind of the flag flap, if you will. There were flags flown at his home and his vacation home that are the same sort of flags that were flown for some of the people who assaulted the Capitol on January 6th. Justice Alito has refused to recuse himself from the cases that are connected with former President Donald Trump. And, he doesn't have to, but also the reputation of the court means something. It certainly means something to the Chief Justice. And I wonder if, when we look back on this particular time, if that's one of the conversations we're going to be having. Was this Supreme Court truly unbiased?
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head. This is an important underlying issue with the upcoming decisions on President Trump, immunity, and also the obstruction charges. And whether or not such as Justice Alito should have recused himself. We have a controversy that starts with the January 6th riots itself, when it's later reported that he and his wife are flying a flag at their home associated with the Stop the Steal movement and the rioters. Now, Justice Alito said, that wasn't his decision. He didn't know about it. That's his wife's decision. She was in a dispute with a neighbor. But then we have a second flag that is flown, again associated with the rioters who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. This is the pine tree flag that the rioters carried with them when they were attacking the Capitol. Again, Justice Alito said, not involved. That was my wife's decision. The beach house belongs to her. And she's entitled to make her own decision, and that doesn't affect my impartiality. Well, that's all good, except I don't think many people believe that. Especially critics are not satisfied that he can be impartial on this. And that's especially so since at the arguments he voiced some fairly surprising arguments in support of providing immunity to the president. So I think we can expect that his opinion will reflect some fairly conservative, if not right-wing arguments providing full immunity to a president here. But the fact remains, it really has been an embarrassing black eye for the Supreme Court to have these revelations. And of course, these followed the revelations of Justice Thomas accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in gifts from a very conservative donor.
Right. Scott Fredericksen, always great talking to you. Thank you.